Thank you. Well, I want to welcome all of you to the second in our series of 4 league-sponsored candidate forums. We are partnered by the Farm Bureau, as usual, and thank you very much to them. We are also partnered by The Democrat, our weekly newspaper, which has published the answers to questionnaires that we had asked our candidates to fill out so that folks could see their views on some issues written up in that way. Before we continue, though, to the first of these, I would just ask, I think many of you know, but perhaps not all, for a moment of silence. Our longtime Assistant Superintendent of the School Corporation, Dennis Goldberg, passed away this morning. Oh. So if we could have a moment of silence. Thank you. Tonight we have 2 panels. The first panel is the race for the House seat in Indianapolis. That's District 65, held for many terms by Mr. Eric Cook, who is now moving on to the second panel, by the way. We have 2 folks who are running for this office. We have Mr. Chris May for the Republican Party and Mr. Chris Woods for the Democrat Party.
The Chris race.
Yes, it's a race between Chris's.
Nobody will get that confused.
No.
Just some general housekeeping, as you are aware. First of all, I'd ask everyone to turn off their cell phones so that those don't interrupt, although I understand that our timekeepers have an alarm on a cell phone which may ring occasionally.
Yeah.
Okay, as you know, the way this works is I will ask questions of our candidates that have been submitted to me by you, the audience, or in a couple of cases, I've received them by email from people. And I've got quite a good stack. I suspect that many of these will be used for both panels this evening. Our candidates will each have 3 minutes for an opening statement. And then after that, I will alternate between them to start responding to a question. They'll have 2 minutes for a response each. And our timekeepers will raise a yellow card 30 seconds before time, and then the red card when the time has expired. I'd also just like to attract your attention to the fact that during the break between panels, you might want to take a look if you haven't already. Brenda Woods, our county clerk, is out there, and she has training materials and an example of the electronic screen that will be taking place for voting in the precincts on November 8th, so you might want to take a look at that, acquaint yourself with that. She's very kindly agreed to be here at all 4 of our forums. Also, during the break, we'll take the chance to introduce any candidates here who are not part of the panels tonight, and they can simply stand and say hello. All right, I think we'll go ahead then. I would ask Mr. May first to give us his opening statement.
I appreciate that. Good evening. And of course, I'd like to thank the Women League of Voters for hosting this event, and definitely for the turnout. That's great. As I give you a little bit about myself, I've been a lifelong resident of District 65. Got a 20-year career in manufacturing. I had a stint with the Ford Motor Company, which then was purchased by Visteon. Of course, that operation was then moved out of the country. Had an 8-year, almost 9-year stint at Otis Elevator in Monroe County in Bloomington. Same scenario. They actually packed up and moved operations to Florence, South Carolina. So I've been exposed to the downturn of manufacturing, the downturn of the economy. So I know a lot of the ills that, and experience a lot of the ills that I believe that most folks have in Southern Indiana, and it's been unfortunate. I'm confident in things turning around, and hopefully to be a part of seeing that transpire. With that, I decided to get in public service. It's been about 10 years ago, so I'm actually in the middle of my 3rd term as county commissioner in Lawrence County. With that, I've been responsible for the management and the implementation of about a $12 $12.5 million budget on a yearly basis. So I think I have a strong foundation when it comes to local government, how local government operates, and how to get things done through the bureaucratic process. My wife and I are also small business owners. We own Hoosier Tech Properties in Bedford. I'm currently employed with Whitney Tool. It's a metal cutting tool manufacturer. It's a locally owned business in Bedford, Indiana. As a sales engineer, work directly with our customers, doing a lot of quoting and estimating and kind of analyzing their process and identifying a solution, as well as doing some process engineering for the floor. So actually, once the project becomes an order, working with the folks on the shop to get the cutter manufactured. My wife, Amanda, she's got a 20-year career in education. The last 8 years of it, she's currently a principal. She sends her regrets this evening. She was unable to attend, and she's actually in the middle of parent-teacher conferences. Got two children. I got a son that's a freshman in high school, a daughter that's a 5th grader. They're in public education. And I can't tell you, I believe that they're receiving a tremendous education, and I'm a big proponent of our public schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Woods.
Well, first of all, thanks to the League of Women Voters of Brown County for hosting another great event. We were fortunate enough to attend in the spring and was happy to see the turnout then, and then happy again to see the fall. I'm a pipe fitter, served a 5-year apprenticeship program with UA Local 136, got my degree through that process. And now I'm the lead on a die-cast south renovation at General Motors. I have a crew of 8 to 12 guys each day that I'm over to get the process done. We're putting in 4,000-ton die-cast presses, and it's always something, it seems like, every day. But these guys enjoy me being on the campaign trail. That means I'm out of their hair a little more often, so they really enjoy me being on the campaign trail. My dad Jack's with me tonight. My wife Brandy as well. We've treated this as a family affair, and I owe them a great deal of gratitude for what they've done for me in this campaign and supporting me throughout the process. Brandy and I have a young son, Nolan. He's 2 years old. He's the best thing that's ever happened to us in this life. He's not big on these type of events, so he spends a lot of time with grandparents, and aunts and things such as that. So Nolan can't be with us tonight, but Nolan's a big reason why I'm in this race. I'm concerned about the future of this district. I'm concerned about the future that Nolan's going to inherit one day in the state of Indiana. I focused this campaign on 3 big issues, and that's education, drug epidemic, and infrastructure. We focused on those 3 areas. We've met with professionals, and we've laid out a vision to address those areas. And with that, people have believed in our vision. So I'm endorsed by the state and local teachers. I'm endorsed by the Indiana State FOP. And we got a plan that we hope to combat and learn to lead from ahead and not behind. So that's what we've proposed throughout this whole campaign process. I'm sure you've seen us everywhere. We've busted our tail at this thing and done it as a family. Got to see a lot of great parts of this district that we hadn't seen before, and met a lot of great folks. It's always fun to come to Brown County. When we came over here, Nolan got jacked up on maple syrup during the Maple Syrup Festival, and that was a lot of fun that night. Randy and I trying to get him to bed, but thanks to Brown County for that, so we appreciated that. We've approached all these issues as we want what we call, and you can see it on the back of our campaign shirts that we've gave out. We ask, are you in? And what we mean by that, are you in on this vision? And this vision is invest, include, and inspire. And what we mean by that, we want to invest in this district to make it a better place for decades to come. We want to include everybody in the process, Republicans, Democrats, Independents. We want to include everybody so everybody's got a seat at the table. And we hopefully inspire the next generation by doing so. So thanks again for having us, and look forward to a productive conversation.
Thank you very much, both of you, for those opening statements. We'll now start the questions, and as I said, I'll alternate with who starts, and so Mr. Woods will be first up. Both of you mentioned education and public schools as a matter of concern. I have 3 cards here that relate to some education issues, and I'm going to mention them all just so that you can address a couple of the concerns on these 3 cards. One is just generally your thoughts on the state of education in Indiana. One is the note that classroom teachers are held accountable for what they teach and its effectiveness. How would you make it possible that parents who homeschool, many of whom are indeed very effective, should also be held accountable? How could that possibly work? And third, that Indiana ranks 47th out of 50 in attracting and keeping public school teachers.
what would you commit to working to address this problem and how? So the three issues are just general thoughts on education, holding homeschoolers accountable and how you might be able to do that, and how we keep good teachers. Yes, you're first, Mr. Woods.
Okay. Education's in the newspaper, it's on the TV, it's everywhere. And on top of that, it's election season. So we're gonna hear a lot about the hot button issues, education obviously. And it's something that needs to be addressed. The environment in education right now is bad. It's not good. I've met with a lot of local teachers and just sat down in small groups, and I always wanna hear their concerns one-on-one and hear what we can do and to help them in the classroom. The teacher's breaking 42nd and the teacher, or 47th, excuse me, and the teacher shortage is just because of the mess of what's going on in this public education. We've got the largest voucher program in the country, and it seems like every year we're looking to expand that program. So I don't want it to be like I'm against a voucher system, but I think it's important that everybody's playing by the same set of rules, and that's not what's happening right now. So first thing we need to have is transparency in the funding, so we know where each dollar's going. We hold everybody to the same standards, charter schools, public schools, and private schools all to the same bar. And we gotta quit teaching to the test. If we talk further, I can talk about my education plan and what I wanna address, but it's time that we start teaching our young people for life and gearing them towards a living wage and not just teaching to a test. I'm all for holding people accountable. I'm held accountable at my job just like everybody in this room is held accountable at one time or another, and I'm all for that. But teaching kids to a test is a disservice to our kids. And we gotta quit playing partisan politics with our kids' futures. They're way too important to worry about if you've got a D or an R by your name, and we have to cross these lines to get things done. So that's my.
Thank you. Mr. May.
Yeah, as I stated previously, my wife has a 20-year career in education. I have two children that are public school attendees. I have a freshman that's been involved here for 10 years. So I've been tied right to parent-teacher conferences. I've been tight with teachers, and I can tell you that I'm proud to represent District 65 in the education that these kids are receiving. We have tremendous teachers, we have tremendous administrators. There's definitely frustrations, there's no doubt about that, but I could relate that to about every industry that I've been exposed to. Things evolve, things change. And that's going to happen. Has there been frustrations with some of the changes and things that's happened within education? You're right, there has been, but the education's not immune. I see it in manufacturing, you see it in every walk of life. I want to make sure that teachers are paid for what are paid their true value. The ones that are performing the best should be rewarded as such. That happens in every other industry that I've been exposed to. As far as the voucher program, I've looked at that. I mean, as far as the state budget is concerned, 54% of that budget is obligated to public education. Of that 54%, 2% is geared towards vouchers. So in my mind, it's a minute amount. Let's see. As far as homeschooling, I would like to see the homeschooling definitely held to a higher standard, just as well as the public education. How to tackle that, I'm not 100% sure, but I know that the bar definitely needs to be raised. As far as teachers teaching to a test and the elimination of I-STEP, I think that we're headed down the right road as getting the I-STEP eliminated. Let's get away from teaching to the test.
Thank you very much. All right, you'll be first on this one, Mr. May. What can the legislature do to combat the drug problem in our state? What ideas will you be supporting in the legislative session to help with this issue?
Yeah, the drug epidemic's been a challenge. I mean, we've been involved in that at the local level. The first thing that comes to my mind is, number one, drugs are illegal. Drugs can cause disease, and drugs can kill you. And for some reason, we still have folks, to me, that would rule drugs out completely. But we still have the epidemic. There's been a couple of programs. Obviously, we have a hepatitis C issue in Lawrence County. So as commissioner, I've been really close to that. So this is where you're tying your public health with your judicial system. So we actually put together a judicial review committee that actually has our prosecutors, our judges, and our health department at a table trying to combat this issue. So immediately, around one of the immediate concerns that we had was the spread of the hepatitis C. So we have partnered with the Indiana Recovery Alliance, that's actually taking the fight and the outreach to the user. So it's in infinite stages, so the true success of it, we're not 100% sure, but we're definitely going to have them report back to us in the coming months to see, how successful that is. One of the programs that I'm really excited about, I got a friend of mine, David Norris, with Heaven Neve, that's actually got a facility at the Monroe County and Lawrence County line, that's a faith-based organization, and he has in-house counseling, and he really tries to get into someone, get to their heart, get to the root issue of the problem, and build the individual back up as they go to overcome the addiction.
Thank you. Mr. Woods?
There's not a person in this district that hasn't been affected directly or indirectly when it comes to the drug epidemic. I've seen it firsthand through a family standpoint. I've seen it through the media, but I wanted to see it from a different set of eyes. So I volunteered and went on police ride-alongs with 2 different departments toward the county jail and seen firsthand what these men and women experience on a day-to-day basis. And I'll be the first person to tell you there's no magic wand that we're going to raise and wave over this drug epidemic and solve this problem. It's a real problem, it's here, and we got to start doing something about it. So with that being said, funding for drug prevention programs has been cut by over 60% through this supermajorities. With that, you start seeing drug prevention programs, and what we're doing now is being reactive in government. And it's time to put the money back in drug treatment or drug prevention programs and being proactive in our approach to this, because kids at the age of 12 are starting to experience heroin now. You can see that in studies. That is very, very sad, and we have to be proactive in our approach. So put money back into drug prevention programs and get these programs going and hit the ground running with it. But let's not also lose sight of the fact that this is a disease, and this is the only disease in this world that we wait until somebody's at rock bottom before we treat them. We have to, the success rates are low on this, but I've seen firsthand what somebody can do when they come back from this disease, and they can be very, very effective, and they can be contribute to their society and do great things. So we got to sum it all up, we need to be proactive and not reactive in government. I think that would solve a lot of our problems in this district.
Thank you. All right, you'll be first on this question. We understand that on the ballot on November 8th, there will be a public question which proposes to amend the state constitution of Indiana to forever preserve the right to hunt, fish, and harvest wildlife as a right under the Constitution. What is your view of that? Do you support it or not? And if either way, why?
I'm an avid hunter and gun owner. So some of the best times my dad's along with me tonight, and we've had some of the best memories we've ever created hunting wildlife, going across the country and doing hunts, but being responsible gun owners and being responsible hunters and respecting our land. So I believe in the right to hunt. I believe in the right to fish. I grew up doing that. I think a lot of us in southern Indiana have done that before. And you just got to be respectful of the fact that safety's number one when it comes to hunting and all that. So as long as we keep and have the same safety programs that we have a local boat club in Lawrence County who does a fantastic program where they bring these young kids in and teach them about responsible gun ownership and teach them how to respect the wildlife and how to do great things. And at the end of it, they have a deer contest at the end of it. It's a great competition for these kids. It's a great way to show them how to be responsible gun owners and respect our land. So I would support that.
Thank you. Mr. May?
Yeah, definitely in our travels at District 65, the passion behind hunting and fishing is just unmatched. So yes, that's definitely something that I will vote in favor of and will support.
Okay, thank you. All right. Mr. May, infrastructure is a hot button issue this year. What personal experience can you draw on when tackling the issue?
As I said, I'm in my 10th year as a county commissioner, so I've been directly responsible for 900 miles of road and about 128 bridges, I believe. So I know our road inventory, I know our bridge inventory, I know the results of our bridge inspections, I know the struggles that we're facing here locally to keep up with the needs. For an example, of those 900 roads, as far as new asphalt each year, we're actually getting new service put on about 2% of our roads each year. That's just not cutting it. Of the 128 bridges, we're actually able to repair or replace about a bridge and a half. It's not cutting it. So infrastructure is a big passion of mine. I'm really going to go to the State House and plan to lobby to get additional local monies to tackle this issue. Another, for instance, another number I can toss at you. So there, for a mile of road, it's costing taxpayers about $50,000 per mile of road. So that kind of gives you an idea of what's out there, what's being spent, and right now local government is challenged with funding. So I plan to lobby for a solution.
Thank you. Mr. Woods?
So as I said, I'm a pipe fitter. I'm the lead on a multi-million-dollar project, and we're not like anything else. We experience problems every day, and you have to work on the fly, and you got to have skilled people around you to get through those types of problems. So I believe in getting more control back to the local government. I think what the state legislator done this past few times in saying, we're not going to raise taxes, it's an election year, but hey, if the local commissioners like Mr. May himself would like to raise taxes to raise more revenue for funding, you guys go right ahead. It's an election year. We're out of this. So I don't agree with that approach. Goes back to being proactive in this. We got to find a long-term solution to keep our roads, bridges, and our infrastructure. But it's not more about that. It's about, and you guys in Brown County experience this, you wouldn't believe the amount of times that I've heard in Brown County, I don't have access to high-speed internet. My kids got to go to a Wi-Fi hotspot to be able to do their homework at night. So let's not lose sight that our roads and bridges, yeah, right now they're a hot button issue, and they are bad and they need to be addressed. And there are plans on the table for a long-term solution that needs to be bipartisanly reached to have those solutions. And I plan on supporting those kind of solutions to the problems, not quick fixes in an election year to just try to get a vote and get off the hook. So that's the first thing about it. The second thing is we got to move forward and get districts like this high-speed internet. There's no excuse to be 2016 and access to internet's not available in these communities. It's just inexcusable, and we tell how we're so fiscally responsible and how we have this surplus of budget, but local communities like this are suffering because we're banking money in Indianapolis.
Thank you. Okay, turning to healthcare. Mr. Woods, you're first. Do you feel that healthcare is a right? And second, the current fee-for-service healthcare model pays for treatment but doesn't pay for prevention. Would you be in favor of a different model for the state money that is currently spent on Medicaid and the Healthy Indiana plan?
As far as healthcare is a right, I believe in people. That goes back to my plan of investing in people. That's what I think we need to do, is if somebody's fallen on hard times and they don't have, the healthcare system's broken in America. I mean, I had lunch with a guy today that's from Italy, and he traveled to Italy for 3 weeks, and he cut his finger in Italy. And the first thing they did when he went into the hospital, they didn't ask for an ID, they didn't ask for an insurance card. They asked, can we help you? And they helped him, and he visited the doctor 3 times after that, and it cost him $100. So that's a system that we need to strive for. Not all the hot button issues that you hear throughout an election season of this is how we're going to fix this problem. To be honest with you, I think we were late to the game when it came to HIP and getting to that process. I think we should have gotten the game earlier and tried to get that program, the ball rolling on that earlier. At the end of the day, the people in this district need to know that no matter what the subject is, I will go to Indianapolis, I will listen to you, and I will fight for you, whether it's healthcare or any other issues such as this.
Thank you, Mr. May.
I believe that healthcare is a right, there's no doubt. As far as in a position of state representative, I'm unsure of what the direct effect I will have on the influence of healthcare. I think that's something that I lack the experience in. I'm not afraid to admit it, but I will be involved and will get to the individuals who know, and I will work in hand with them, and we'll make sure and represent the district as needed.
Great, thank you. And Mr. May, of course, Brown County relies very heavily and also appreciates very much the beauty of its natural surroundings, our woods, our hollers and our ridges, all of this. There's a lot of discussion here, at least, about the question of logging in the state forests and whether clear cutting has caused us damage in that respect, especially to our natural resources. Eric Cook, as our representative, it did introduce a bill to limit logging to 10% of the state forest lands. Is this something that you would support and continue? And if not, what would you propose instead?
You know what, Eric and I are tremendous friends. We talk daily, and it's definitely an initiative that I would support and back Eric on as he moves on to the Senate. So yes, it's something that I would support, and you know, given the fact that even the Department of Natural Resources budget had an increase of about $2.5 million over prior year, is something that definitely pleases me just as well. So.
And if I could just tag on, I see another related question. More generally, what would you do, or what will you do if elected, to protect our natural resources?
More generally, you know, that's something where I would rely on our local community, County Commissioner Diana Bill, Dave Anderson, and I would be engaged with them and engaged in local need.
Thank you. So both the logging question and more generally on natural resources.
Okay. In Brown County, everywhere I go, the economic lifeblood, or the economic blood over here is the forestry. People come to see your 200 shops, people come to see these beautiful leaves in the fall, and people come to be in this environment. We talked about the increase of 2.5 million. Yeah, next year there's a scheduled cut, and since 2001, there's been $75 million worth of cuts to your DNR. And with those cuts, those have come with consequences. And those consequences are the cutting of your state forest. And what are we going to do when there's no more forest? What's Brown County going to do to attract people to these local shops? What's Brown County going to do to have people come stay and enjoy this beautiful land? You have one of the best state parks in this state. And I'm fortunate enough in Lawrence County to have Spring Mill, who I'm partial to, but I've begun to adopt Brown County myself. But you can go back, and as I've talked to the local residents, this park used to be completely mowed. Well, with these $70-some million worth of cuts since 2001, they don't have the resources to provide a living job for somebody to work at your state park. So you can see that these parks aren't mowed now. You can see that, you know, you go out here to Yellowwood State Forest and you can see the destruction that's happened out there. There's no oversight over these logs. And they're breaking down your roads, your bridges, because nobody's out there watching over these trucks being overloaded and breaking the asphalt down and hurting your bridges. So those are things that need to be addressed, and you go straight to the top and you talk to those folks and you figure out how you can fix these problems. And that's something that I strongly believe in. And the second thing would be that you're selling these logging contracts here locally for 60 cents on the dollar. It's not a fair market value, and if you're fiscally responsible, that's not good government. That's not.
Thank you. In the past, Hoosier drivers have been overcharged by the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, an estimated $32 million up to $144 million. Why has it taken so much time to recognize the problem? And more generally, what are your thoughts on how you recognize these kinds of accountability and process problems in our state government? I think yes.
Okay. That just goes to show you our government is not working for the people. You can see, and I'm going to get off subject here a little bit and come right back to it, but the I-69 in Monroe County, it's mismanagement, folks. This is the fifth leg. We subbed that out to a third-party contractor, and I know about dealing with subcontractors and things get lost in translation, and you've seen that by people walking off the jobs. It goes right back to leadership with the BMV. How we are not having the checks and balances in place as a state government to be responsible enough to take taxpayers' money that we're charging them to put money into our roads, to put money into our bridges, to put money into our school system is bad leadership. And you got to start at the top, and you got to fix these problems. You got to be proactive in these approaches to government. We react every time something happens. It's time that the state of Indiana and District 65 leads the way on being proactive in government, and that's what I believe in.
Thank you. Mr. May.
As far as specifically the question within BMV, I'm not directly involved and haven't been exposed to that issue. You know, I would expect that if there's some overcharging, that it would be resolved immediately, that it wouldn't drag on for months on end. I have confidence in our current administration to do the right thing, and I believe that they are.
Okay. More generally, do you have some thoughts about how you hold accountable state officers?
There's routine audits. It's the same process that goes on locally. You continue to audit.
Thank you. Okay, to some extent, I'm now returning to a Brown County concern that's been around for a while as well. Would you support counties such as Brown to receive a portion of gate fees from state parks to help offset support costs such as emergency services? I believe, Mr. May, that you're first. And if so, will we need to hire a lobbyist to actually get this done?
My answer would be no. I would leave that as is. I support the current administration.
All right, Mr. Woods, do you support that counties such as Brown might receive a portion of gate fees from state parks to help offset the support costs?
If I'm elected to be your state representative, you won't have to hire a lobbyist to represent you at the State House. I would 100% support something like that. Economic lifeblood of Brown County are these state parks and these lands. So absolutely, Brown County suffers because of the percentage of public or state-owned land in this county, so you don't have the availability to generate funds and generate revenue through taxes, through your tax system, like other counties benefit from. So absolutely, I would do anything I could to help Brown County, and I promise you won't have to hire a lobbyist to get something done in Brown County.
Okay, next question. The Center for Public Integrity recently issued a report asserting that out of 22 super polluters, which are defined as U.S. power plants that are in the top 100 in both greenhouse gases and toxic air release, five of the 22 are in Indiana, making it the top state for super polluters. How can Indiana meet its energy needs while simultaneously protecting the environment and mitigating job loss?
I'm losing track here.
You.
Okay.
Sorry, I was so
Yeah.
focused on getting that complicated question out that I forgot where I was.
Yeah. As a pipe fitter, I've done a lot of work, and a lot of my brothers and sisters do work in powerhouses. So obviously, I'm all for keeping those type of jobs. Second thing is, though, we got to be conscious of the fact, early on I talked about what kind of land's Nolan going to inherit one day here in Indiana. And I think it's very important that we start looking at other ways of keeping our pollution down. And not at the expense of having the big political headline of coal and all that stuff. I'm not talking that. I'm just talking common sense approach to government here. And if you look at the IDEM funding, it's gone down as well, folks. I mean, you can look at this chart, and I'll be glad to give anybody these charts, but the funding on this has went down, and that's where you start seeing the overpollutions and us getting headlines. We got to quit playing partisan politics with all this stuff and who we're buddying up with and where we're trying to get with this. We got to approach these things from a common sense standpoint and start looking at solutions. I'm not saying cut the job out, but I'm just saying let's look at a situation where we could do better in those areas.
Thank you, Mr. May.
I believe we're regulated efficiently currently. I would be in favor of any additional regulation.
Okay. And then, Mr. May, the next question goes to you first. What do you see as the major budget challenges facing Indiana in the next 5 to 10 years?
The budget challenge is going to be infrastructure. I mean, we went over that. It is definitely the hot button item of this election cycle. So it's our bridges, it's our roads. If we can get past those two issues, and you're looking at high-speed internet, as Mr. Woods mentioned. So, but the priority has to be our roads and our bridges in the times now.
Thank you. Mr. Woods, major budget challenges that you see facing the state in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think the first thing that I would like to lobby for, fortunate enough to be your state representative, is to enact a statewide pre-K program. I'm all about investing in kids, and that's the earliest stages of economic development you can do. And as a state, we turned away $80 million. This current administration turned away $80 million of funds over partisan politics, folks. That's 2 years that kids like Nolan, kids like yours, grandkids like yours, didn't have access to high-quality pre-K ed. And what we put in place of it was a 5-county lottery draw that you're winning the lottery. Your family's winning the lottery if you're fortunate enough to be one of those 30% that get drawn for this On My Way pre-K program that's not in this county, but it's in 5 other counties. So I think that's one of the biggest hurdles. Obviously, infrastructure is a must, and I think it's important to not lose sight of We pay for these roads and bridges the way it is right now, and if we can stop running this state as a big business or a corporation and run it for the people, we won't have any trouble funding our roads and bridges. We won't have any trouble trying to help people that are impaired or trying to have problems on drug epidemics and things such as that. So, and last but not least, we need to bring high-speed internet right here to Brown County, so.
All right, you're first on the next one. Do you support or not support incentive programs for renewable energy projects such as solar and wind power, and why or why not?
Absolutely. That, it is me, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I'll start making that now.
Basically, whoever talked last
Yeah,
talks
all
first.
right, I'll start making it now. So, yeah, I 100% do that, support that. You go back to our power plants and stuff, over polluting, things such as that. If we start implementing programs like that, that helps us out. And that actually leads us into new areas where we can create jobs. And if we start promoting renewable energy, start promoting new ways of making energy and producing power in this state, we're on the front lines of doing something great and having an economic burst because of it. I just believe in never trying to quit to grow and expand. Never take anything off the table. Always look at everything and try to approach it with a common sense approach. So yeah, I would 100% support renewable energy.
Thank you, Mr. May.
Yes, I'd support renewable energy just as well. I've actually got two neighbors within walking distance has actually taken advantage of renewable energy, and the success has been unmatched. So I've got firsthand knowledge of that. So yes, I would support renewable.
Mr. May, you're first this time. What is your position on state-funded Planned Parenthood?
I'm not a supporter of Planned Parenthood.
All right, thank you.
I think a lot of low-income people, I think the old days of just saying this is an abortion factory and everything else, a lot of things go on at a Planned Parenthood besides, that type of stuff. They get treatment for diseases, they get, different literature on different epidemics and things that are going on. So with the right oversight, yeah, we need to help our people in any way we can, and low-income families having access, women having access to healthcare providers such as that, and yeah.
Okay, this question did come up in the questionnaires, but I have a couple of folks who want to address it again. So Mr. Woods, you're first, and that is the question of the once-a-decade redistricting, and whether you would support, and what's your position on an independent bipartisan committee or some kind of structure that would perhaps lead to a different result?
As I said in that questionnaire, absolutely would. This is a tough seat to run for. It's a geographical nightmare and it's gerrymandered. There's no way around it. We've enjoyed the process, we've enjoyed the challenge, and we've approached every part of this district and worked hard to earn their support. I think that it's time to get people that represent you and not a political party. That's 100% what I believe in, and the way these lines are drawn right now, only a select few of them are competitive. And they actually don't consider this seat competitive, and that's why you haven't had a choice in your elected official for 14 years, folks. And that's one of the reasons, the gerrymandered districts. So I would 100%, I understand it's a process, but it's a process that needs to be done, and it's something that needs to be addressed moving forward.
Thank you. Mr. May?
Yes, I definitely support an independent bipartisan commission to handle redistricting. There's a current committee that's involved in tackling this issue now, and I have faith that they'll come forth with a good solution.
Thank you. All right, we've just got a couple questions left, and this is much more about how you kind of personally will approach your office if elected. Our representative, Eric Cook, is very present in our local community. How much time will you invest in Brown County, Mr. May?
Eric's got big shoes to fill, and I believe a person to fill. And I've spent 10 years in public service. In today's world, you're accessible. You're accessible by email. You're accessible by cell phone, by text message. I will be accountable to my constituents as I am in my current role, and I look forward to serving each and every one of you.
Thank you. Mr. Woods?
I've treated this campaign like an audition, and you've seen me in Brown County. You've heard me, had conversations with me. I listen to the people of Brown County, talk to them about their issues, and that's what I pledge to these people. I'll do everything I can to fight for you each and every day, and I'll work just as hard for you at the State House as I have during this campaign.
Thank you. And then one last question, beginning with Mr. Woods. In these trying times, politics appears to want to keep elected and unelected candidates to the party line versus doing what you think is right for the district. What do you say to that? And second of all, can you give us in that line an example of something you have personally done in your careers to put your district ahead of
Yeah, I don't believe in partisan politics. I think I've covered that pretty well tonight. I have my own thoughts, my own vision for this district, not what my political party says. I don't believe in going straight down the ballot because these districts are different everywhere, and that's what you're getting elected to do. You're elected to represent voters and people just like yourself, along with the other 4 counties that are in this district. So I 100% believe in supporting the people, not the political party. And that's what I look forward to doing if I'm fortunate enough to be elected.
Mr. May?
You know, as an elected official, you're held accountable to the taxpayer, and I expect to be active. I expect to be held accountable by the taxpayer. I look forward to serving each and every one of you. One of the things that I've been really pleased with my role as commissioner, I was working with the city of Bedford. We were a stellar community. Really revitalizing our downtown in the last couple of years. We've done a complete renovation from HVAC, replacement of windows, and complete renovation of the courthouse grounds themselves. And it's been tremendous. So,
Thank you. All right. I think we'll move to closing statements. You each have 2 minutes to just add any closing ideas and thoughts you might have. Mr. May.
as we've talked here, I think that my experience goes unmatched. By spending 10 years in the local community as county commissioner, I've been there. I've been representing folks at the local level. I've been involved with a $12.5 million budget. I've been held accountable by taxpayers, and I look forward to taking the lessons learned and the knowledge gained at the local level and lobbying for you on your behalf at the State House. My campaign has been endorsed by the Indiana Chamber of Commerce, the Indiana Right for Life, the NRA, current Senator Brent Steele, and former Lieutenant Governor Becky Skillman. They've all shown tremendous confidence in my race, and I'll ask each and every one of you for your vote come November, and I look forward to serving you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Woods.
First of all, thanks to the League of Women Voters, thanks to Brown County for having us, and thanks to Mr. May for participating in this forum. Folks, you got 26 days, and you got a choice for the first time in 14 years. You got 26 days to choose who represents you in the state of Indiana at the State House. I've made it clear tonight that my vision is to fight for you each and every day, if fortunate enough. Government is designed to work for the people, and I think we've lost sight of that. Government isn't about being a small business. Government isn't about being a corporation. I'm the only candidate that's provided a vision for this district. Want to see this district in the future and laid out plans for this district. I'm the hardest working candidate in this race, hands down. There's no way around that. And I believe in showing that hard work. I will work for you, and I think that's what it is. I've worked to earn your support. I haven't expected it because of a political party. And my vision is endorsed by the state and local teachers associations. It's endorsed by the Indiana State FOP, and it's endorsed by working families. So on November 8th, I'm asking for your vote. I appreciate this opportunity, and thanks again for having me.
Thank you both very much.